Monkey.
Now Tyson Fury urges his domestic rival Anthony Joshua to engage in a fight with him sometime this year, potentially at the end of the year. Now this is coming off the back of Usyk saying essentially that, he doesn't want to fight Tyson Fury in December. He's got injuries that need to heal and he just wants to rest and spend time with his family. And I don't think you can be overly critical of Alexander Usyk for coming out and saying this, just because Usyk's known to go to people's backyards and fight them. It doesn't matter when and where. So I just think he is genuine and he probably does need a few months off boxing. Anthony Joshua seems keen on fighting Tyson Fury. He says, reach out to my team and let's try to make it happen. Now, I've always believed that Tyson Fury, obviously he was more interested in an Anthony Joshua fight because there's a lot more financial mileage involved in the Anthony Joshua fight compared to the Alexander Usyk fight. That's why Tyson Fury constantly says, oh, Usyk is a foreigner, he's a middleweight, no one cares about him. And that's why Tyson Fury prices himself out saying, oh, I want 500 million. Because it's the risk to reward ratio. If Tyson Fury goes out there and beats Usyk, people will just say, oh, Usyk is only 6'3", he's moving up from cruiserweight, and he's not an English-speaking guy. People aren't as interested in him. But with Joshua, obviously being from the UK, he speaks perfect English. Joshua is a lot bigger than Usyk, even though Usyk has beaten Joshua and proven to be the superior fighter. The belief is that the Joshua fight would generate a lot more revenue than the Usyk fight, which, in fair to Tyson Fury, is probably true. So that's why I believe Tyson Fury prefers the Joshua fight, and he also thinks that Joshua is an easier fight than Usyk. Don't get it twisted by Tyson Fury saying Usyk is just a middleweight and that I'm a 7-foot, giant and so on and so forth. He knows that Usyk is very technically good. I believe that people would be surprised if they seen a fight between Tyson Fury and Usyk. We often think that, Fury's just too big for Usyk, but the coordination, the balance, the speed that Usyk has, I suspect it would be a lot better than Tyson Fury in those departments. Now, some might say, oh, what are you talking about? Tyson Fury is a great boxer. Yeah, that's against a clumsy Deontay Wilder. But against somebody like Usyk, who is much more fundamentally sound than a Deontay Wilder, who has a lot better balance and coordination, who's much lighter on his feet and who constantly moves, he would, superiorly look better. He would completely outdo Tyson Fury. And I don't know why I said superiorly, because that doesn't make any sense. But yeah, you get the gist. He would look a lot more better than Tyson Fury. He would look a lot more technically sound, and Fury probably wouldn't be able to keep up with him. Though he fills us with Joshua. Joshua is upright. He calls Joshua the bodybuilder. He's insinuating that Joshua is stiff. Joshua is easier to hit. Joshua gasses out in the championship rounds. So he feels like, yeah, you know what? I can get to Joshua. He probably sees Joshua as an easy fight. So yeah, I don't particularly blame Tyson Fury for wanting the Joshua fight. At the end of the day, it's probably going to bring in a lot more money, and Joshua is probably a more winnable fight, from Tyson Fury's perspective. Though I don't believe that Tyson Fury is necessarily ducking Usyk. I know he's demanding 500 million, but I just feel like it's a situation where he doesn't genuinely believe he can make 500 million. He just wants, to make a lot of money. Let's just say that people are willing to pay Fury 50 million, 60 million to fight Usyk, and they bump up, the offer to 100 million. I feel like if he was offered 100 million to fight Usyk, I feel like he would take that fight. So whilst on the surface it looks like he's trying to outprice himself, he probably knows that deep down, listen, if I can get 100 million, maybe a little bit more than 100 million, which is still a lot of money, I'll take the Usyk fight. He probably doesn't believe that anyone would be willing to offer him 500 million, but we'll have to wait and see. Would you guys be interested in an Anthony Joshua versus a Tyson Fury fight by the end of the year? Listen, I've gone out and said that Joshua needs some easier fights. He needs to fight a Filip Hrgovic. He needs to fight, you know, what's the guy that Hrgovic just beat recently? Zhang. He needs to fight Joe Joyce. Even though Joyce is not an easier fight, he's probably a step below your Usyk. You know, he needs to fight maybe B-level fighters. Maybe put him in there with the Ortiz. Someone he can just build confidence with. Someone who we suspect he'll beat, but he's not too low in terms of skill level. But just someone that Joshua should be able to get the better of, because Joshua's had a long run of tough fights. And in order to recover psychologically, I feel like he needs slightly easier fights where he can get the knockout, where he can get the guy out within a couple of rounds, within 5-6 rounds, where it doesn't have to go the distance and he's not breathing heavy and struggling and going through all of that, you know, torment against somebody like Alexander Usyk. So should Joshua accept the Tyson Fury fight, it might be an instance where Joshua just doesn't care about losing. He's lost, 3 times in his last 5 fights? So if you look at his run of form, it's not great. But he might just be thinking to himself, you know what? I've lost twice against Usyk. I've lost to Ruiz. You know, loss against Fury wouldn't hurt too much. And obviously he won't be thinking about losing. He will be confident in thinking, you know what? I can get the better of Fury. Because there's certain things that Usyk does that Fury can't do, that Joshua will probably be able to exploit. For instance, it was very hard for Joshua to get his combinations off on Alexander Usyk, because Usyk is just constantly moving laterally. He just doesn't stand still, Usyk. That's the real problem with him and fighting someone like him. He doesn't give you the opportunities to throw big shots and load up. But someone like Tyson Fury, as good as a mover as he is for someone who is 6'9", there are more opportunities that will present themselves when you fight somebody like a Tyson Fury. We saw it in the first Wilder fight and the third Wilder fight. And even in the second Wilder fight, Deontay Wilder was hitting Tyson Fury with a few decent right hands. So yeah, if the fight were to happen in December, you know, you would probably have to favor Tyson Fury at this point in time. But Joshua probably has a better chance of beating Fury than he does Usyk, believe it or not. But we don't know. Currently, I rate Fury as the best heavyweight in the world, because he's shown time and time again at the top level against dangerous guys like Klitschko, Wilder. You could even say Dillian Whyte, that he's able to get through fights and almost makes them look easy, believe it or not. So yeah, those were just my quick thoughts on Tyson Fury reaching out to Anthony Joshua and saying, you know what, let's make this fight happen. Do you guys think that Fury is being genuine? We know that, you know, he lies a lot. But just because he lies a lot doesn't mean he lies every single time. He might be being genuine this time. Who knows? Maybe I'm a fool for believing in Tyson Fury. But anyway, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Alright guys, peace.